I'm excited to be with you. I really am. I've been praying for you, and I really believe that without sounding weird, and I know, and I got to be up front. Some of you don't know me, and I just want to make sure that you know who I am. Like I grew up in an inner city project. Lot of abuse, cops in and out of the house. It was dark, man, and I had a lot of violence, all kinds of stuff. My brothers, kind of funny, not funny, used to think it was funny. Like they used to get, when I was 6 years old, they used to get me high because they thought it was hilarious. So I just want to be real up front with you tonight, because I know that I'm talking to high school students. You're young men and women. You're not kids. And I just want to be honest. I know that you see through fake probably better than any other generation that's ever been here. So I can't give you fake tonight. I can tell you that the dude that's speaking up here tonight is a guy who Jesus radically saved my life. And I was into sports, and I chased stuff, and I had hurts and all this kind of stuff. And I don't mean like he came in and he grabbed a hold of me, and I am a different person. And one of the things that I'm kind of here to talk about, and I'm literally tonight, and some of you in the room, you don't feel like, maybe tonight, maybe you're not in the mood for this. Maybe you're not sure that you need to hear this. Some of you are here for the first time. Some of you are into sports. Some of you are into, you're not even sure what you think about this. And I'm just telling you, I've been praying that God would say something to you tonight. And I think he's going to. And one of my favorite things about Jesus was always, and I don't know, we've been kind of talking about parables all week, and we're going to keep talking about them. Jesus had this thing about him, man. Like when he would talk to people, he was so genuine, he was so real that people already knew like something about him. There's like a magnetic nature to the way that he talked, because everybody knew that what he was saying was real. And all of a sudden he would start talking about stuff, and there'd be this distance between what they thought was real and what they longed for. And when Jesus would talk, very genuine, real people would listen. Why? He had this thing about him. When he would talk about relationships, y'all, so many people, like how many of us would say, man, I got so many I got great friends, I got great relationships, I love where I'm at in life. And if, we were like, I'm part of orange, I'm part of blue. I probably shouldn't get that started. Like, that's just who I am. And you're like, man, I got my people, I got my posse. Fellas, where you at in the room? Just give me a grunt or something, manly. Yeah. I got some lions in here. I saw you guys competing. I saw you flexing. There's so much flexing going on today. I loved every second of it. And ladies, where you at? Girls, I just love you. Now that I have a daughter, I'm telling you, there's something so amazing about who you are. And I'm just telling you, sometimes, and Jesus had this unique way, where when he would talk, you knew it was real. So all of a sudden you're like, man, I've got these relationships, I got a posse, I got these people, I got my tribe. And then all of a sudden he would start defining relationships. And all of a sudden all the people would be like, yeah, man, I don't have that. Like, I don't really have somebody in my life that really knows me like that. I don't have somebody in my life that gives me that kind of grace. I don't have that kind of person in my life that when I'm not at my best, and when I'm not great, when I'm not winning, and when I'm a little wounded, and when I'm afraid, I don't have somebody that comes to get me. I have somebody that I have to keep up with, and I have to keep up with my image, and I have to keep up with a group, and I have to keep up with what everybody else says. He had a way. He had this way of talking about the future, where everybody was like, man, what are you gonna do? Dude, I'm gonna go to this college, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make some money. Like, you don't even know the plans I've got for myself. And then all of a sudden, man, he would speak. And all of a sudden, you're just like, so wait. So you're saying like some of the guys that I just sat down with a guy literally this week, I guess it would have been Monday, worth close to $500 million. He's given most of his life to success. Feels empty. Feels like he didn't know what even to live for. Jesus would just say this thing, and he would talk about purpose, and everybody else would chase us, and you're like, oh man, you don't know the plans, you don't know what I'm gonna do, you don't understand what I can bench press, you don't understand what I can run, you don't understand the college that I'm gonna get into, you don't understand what I've got. And then Jesus would speak a word of purpose, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, I don't got that. Like, I don't have that thing that I could live with, like, where I could live leave a legacy behind, where if somebody else followed me, I'd be proud of the legacy that I leave. I don't have that. He talked about things like marriage. And you look around and you're like, look, man, I just need her to be smoking hot. That's all I need in life. And a commitment to sign that she's gonna be fit the rest of her life. And then you know what I need is I need a guy who's just gonna be like, he's gonna just like, it's gonna be petals and roses. He's gonna be writing me love songs. He's gonna sit every night, he's gonna sit on Snap and be like, I love you, girl. Girl, you so fine. I'm like, on Snap, come on, man. You know, there's this thing about Jesus that he talked about relationships. And all of a sudden you would recognize that this thing that you had, kind of like all the relationships that you look around to, that listen, you're not the first person to chase that. But all of a sudden, the groups of people that Jesus would talk around would look around and go, yeah, well, how's that working out for anybody? And he'd speak about relationships, and all of a sudden, like what happened to me, I started getting a vision for loving somebody that literally, when my girl is 85 years old and we're sitting on a rocking chair talking about the way that the Lord has used our lives, she will never be more radiant, never be more beautiful. And I promise that day is coming. He just had this thing. He had a way of talking about real things in real ways, and all of a sudden you couldn't help but just say, man, I know that that's true. I know it. I see it. I can be fake all I want, but I know that there's something about what he's saying that is bigger than the life that I'm living. And that's the story that we find ourselves in today. It's Luke chapter 15. This is kind of to set the scene. It just says this, verse 1, it says, now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees, super religious people, I'd say religion without Jesus, because there's religion, not all religion's bad, but these people obviously were just about rules and just about the outside. And so it says tax collectors, sinners, they're all gathered around to hear Jesus. Here's the question: why are they all there to listen to him? Do you ever wonder that? Why is it everywhere Jesus goes, real people want to come? And fake people want to stand on the outside, and they just muttered. I don't know what muttered means, but it's a great word. They're just like, man, this guy welcomes sinners and eats with them. So here's the thing, and again, I'm just being honest. I'm here to be real. And my favorite thing about Jesus is Jesus came to real people, and he knew that real people had real questions about God. And they saw it's not like they didn't see what was around them. They saw what was going on, but here's the thing, they felt like God was distant. Why was he distant? Well, he was part of it. He felt distant because to even have a relationship with him, you had to follow the rules. You had to be that kind of other person. You had to be perfect. It felt like he was always trying to steal your joy. It felt like he was always trying to measure up. So all these people would hear about God and they'd be like, I don't know, man. I see religious people. I see fake people. Some of you have seen a lot of fake people. I hate this for you. You've seen a lot of fake people that call themselves Christians. It's the worst, man. And they all saw it, and they just felt like, he's so distant. Let me put it this way. There were people in the crowd that day, I know this sounds crazy, that knew everything that they were supposed to know, but something inside of them recognized that even though I kind of know in the core of my being that I'm made for something more, that I'm supposed to, like I was made for a relationship with God and you can't run from it, but something inside of you knows, but I feel so far from him. That's how they felt. And Jesus just had this way, and so he looked at them, and so he did what Jesus does. He wanted to wrap him in a story because he wanted him to know who God really was and who they could be. So this is what he does. Luke 15, verse 11, he says this, Jesus continues, he says there was a man who had 2 sons. Got it? 2. The younger one. Any younger ones in the crowd? Where are you at? Where are the older ones at? The oldest. where the middle kids are like, you always forget me. Yeah. So y'all, it's not even the oldest kid. It's the younger one. The younger one said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. Meaning, Dad, I know at some point, this is how it worked back then, at some point you're gonna die and you got some money and I can sit around and pretend that I like you and I can pretend that we're close, but let's be honest, we're just not, man. We've never been close. I want something different than you want. And so let's just skip the formalities. I could hang out until you die, or you could just give me the money, give me my inheritance, and let's just not fake this, and then I'll just go do what I know I want to do and what I'm probably going to do anyways. It's like some of you with college. You're like, I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be fine. As soon as I get to college, I know who I'm going to be. I know what I'm going to do. I can do what you want me to do now. It's fine. I just know when I get out of this. I just know when I get outside of these rules. I know what I'm going to do. And we can pretend right now if you want me to. I'm good at pretending. But he just says, so he divided the property between them. What kind of dad does that? It says not long after that, the younger son just got together all that he had, and it says this, don't miss this. He set off for a distant country. It's not named, it's a parable. He says, all I know is it's a country far apart, a distant country. And there what he did was he just squandered his wealth in wild living. It says after he spent everything, there's a severe famine in the whole country. He didn't see that coming. And it says, and he began to be in need. So he went and he hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. Like if you're a Jew, I don't know if you know this, but they don't touch pigs. And the brother's like, I used to have a dad, and I used to have a heritage, and I used to have a purpose, and I used to have a future, and I used to have resources. I used to have somebody that would take care of me when things would go wrong. I used to have, but then I chased. But here's the thing, here I am. I don't know what else to do. And so all of a sudden, he's just like, okay, but I got to eat. I've got to figure it out. So he just said, okay, so I'm just going to go. So brother's got a job feeding pigs. And he's just so hungry, man. Like his dad's house, he never missed a meal, but he's just so hungry. It says he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. Nobody cared about him, man. Where were those friends? I don't know. It's a parable. But I've been there. So I just want to grab a couple things. I just want to have a real conversation with you. And I also want to give you a real opportunity. And so here's what he did. So he said, listen, I want something different. I'm not going to be fake. This is just what I want to do. And so he got all of his stuff together and he set off for a distant country. Why would anybody ever do that? Well, because y'all know there is something just outside and in front of you that feels like it's calling you. Do you feel that? There's like something over the horizon. And it might be success, and it might be a girl, and it might be a future, and it might be a potential that you will finally be free, that you'll finally taste something different. You'll have freedom. You can just kind of do whatever you want. You're kind of tired of rules. That's part of being a teenager. And by the way, you can just be, you don't have somebody nagging in your ear telling you like that you should feel guilty about what you're doing. You just be done with that, man. You can just experience what you want to experience because you know that looks great and it's going to feel great and take that wherever you want to go with that. You want to go to a place where you can have success. Some of you in the room, fellas, I love you, man. But you so bad want to be the man. that is driving your life. And I get it. It's like this voice over the hills just saying, man, if you could just come this way, if you could just come this way, if you could just hang out with this group, if you could just come to this party, if you just finally make it in, if you can be a good enough athlete, if you get good enough grades, if you get into the party school that you want to, if you just get more followers, if somebody could just if you could finally get that body that somebody will care about online or on a screen or on Snap, then surely be happy, right? So I just want to be, you're super smart. Most of you, I'm just kidding. I just have a question. Can we just be real? The distant country makes a lot of promises. I just want you to use your brain for a second, and I just want to ask you the question, does the distant country, that thing that keeps calling you out into the thing that you just want to be free, that you want to taste, that you want to do, that you want to go, I mean, like my son has a group of guys that meet at the house. We do something on Fridays every single morning. Most of those guys a year ago didn't know Jesus at all, and if you'd have asked them what the most of their life was wrapped around, it was sports, smoking weed, and sleeping with girls. Can I be more specific? For some of you girls, it's a little bit different. For you, it's like, those aren't the things you want, and I don't even think that that's what guys want. That's just where guys find themselves. And with girls, it's to be pretty, it's to be beautiful, it's to be seen, it's to be known, it's to be loved, it's to be valued. So I just have this question of all the things that are pulling you out. Question, we at least need to be honest. Is that call, is that distant country delivering on its promises for anybody? So I got a couple things, that's it, and then I'm just gonna let you process, and I'll just tell you what I know about the distant country. I've seen it from the time I was young. I saw it when the cops were in and out of my home. I saw it when my brothers were sleeping with like person after person when they came through the door. I saw it in my sisters when they started giving themselves away and when they started leaning into things because they had wounds. And most of you in the room have wounds. Now I'll just tell you what I know about distance. The distant country will always take you further than you intended to go. You know that, right? Like I'm looking at a room and you know, some of you are young and maybe you're dabbling right now, and so you're like, man, it's not that, you know, I hear you, you know, maybe it's bad, but it's not that bad yet. But then some of you in the room, you know, you never set off to be a liar, where literally you lie all the time. You don't know why. But it didn't start there. It started with a little lie. Some of you in the room, some of you showed up with nerves in your stomach at the party, and you're knocking on the door, and there's a little bit of excitement, but a little bit of something else, and then all of a sudden, you can't go one weekend without smoking weed and drinking. Some of you girls in the room, I love you like a father. And I know that first time that you had a guy start, you know, giving you interest, and then you started getting physical, and you're like, I'm sure he loves me. And maybe not all of you in the room, but I think some of you know what it's like to move in your heart from I'm sure he loves me to maybe now 2 guys later, if I just give this guy what he wants, maybe he will love me. You didn't know it was going there. Why? Because the distant country will always take you to a place you never go. The guy didn't leave the house thinking I'm gonna be feeding pigs with a bunch of slop with some guy I don't know that doesn't even care about me. But that's where the distant country takes you. Anybody else in the room? I'm just being, again, I'm trying to not be preachy. I want to be real. Anybody in the room wonder how in the world you got where you are? Like feeling some of the loneliness you got? Feeling some of the anxiety that you carry? Having some of the desires that literally you don't know what to do with them anymore? Or how to turn them off? Some of you girls in the room, I love you, but right now you don't know how to live life without a boy. Some of you guys in the room, you don't know how to live a life that is not wrapped around your ego. What? Is that a surprise? And look, guys, hey, you know why I know that, fellas? You want to know why I know that? Because I'm a guy. Because I'm a guy. I remember chasing. I remember flexing. Not as much as some of you flex, but I'm just playing. But I just, a couple things. One, distance is always going to take you further than you wanted to go. Number two, distance is going to cost you something. I just want to be honest about it. So in this story, he had an inheritance. He had a father that cared about him. He had a future. And when he went to chase the distant land, I just want us to be real about what it cost him. You're picking up the cost, right? Guy's broke. Not only is he broke, but he doesn't have anybody that cares. And at first, I also understand, like when you're chasing, when you're going after stuff, I understand the cost doesn't seem that high. Like right now, if you just risk a little relationship with your parents right now because you're chasing something, let's be honest, that's a price some of you are willing to pay right now. You're like, me not getting along with my mom and dad? Paid. Does that mean I get to do what I want to do? Some of it's lack of sleep. Some of you're like, you know what? If you're saying that to chase this, all I have to do, I'm just going to miss out on a little sleep. I'm going to do a little bit more poorly in my grades, or I'm just going to. But the problem is, I just want to be real. The problem is that, and this is just what I've seen, is you end up getting a bad deal, right? I mean, you know this. I mean, you think you're chasing freedom. So what are the things you chased? You chase girls, you chase image, you chase money, chase success. Let me ask you a question now. How free do you feel? Or do you feel more chained than you've ever felt? You fought so hard to get into that group, and once you got into that group, you realize that I've actually got to pretend all the time to stay in this group. I've actually got to sit here and never have a real conversation and never have anybody like literally look at me and know that I'm cared for and that I'm a part of this family and to feel like I'm a family. I always feel like I'm like battling for position. Some of you are like, man, I just didn't want any guilt, man. I just didn't want anybody whispering, just saying, come on, man. Like, you know you should feel bad about that. And so you're like, I'm tired of feeling bad. But now instead of guilt, you have no reality. You don't feel shame for what you're doing, but you don't have, like, think about the world that you're living in and just fast forward it 10 years. Is that even real? You want pleasure and ecstasy. And you're like, man, whether it's in drugs, or whether it's sleeping around, or just making it, I don't know what your pleasure thing is. But just time out. Have you chased it and it actually filled you yet? Or do you continue to feel less feeling than you felt the first time, and it's like this thing that you chase that you never really find? Some of you guys thought if you were a great athlete, if you had ripped abs, I don't know, if you were great, that you would feel great. So then why are you more insecure than you've ever been? I just want to be real, because some of you just wanted a good time, and now, y'all, you're a teenager and you're finding yourself, I get it. You find yourself addicted and you really don't know how to change. And I just want to say this. Some of you in the room, your current lifestyle is costing you. And one day, I love you, man. That's why I'm being real. One day, you're going to have to give more than you've got. And some of you already have. The more distance you make, the farther you go. It's crazy. Some of you know this already. The more distance you go, the harder it is to ever turn around and come back, right? That's kind of how this thing works. Like he goes, and if he had just lost his money and he hadn't been there long and things had gone south, he would have went, well, you know what? I just need to head back home. But it's this thing, man. You get the friends, you get the stuff, you start walking, and you recognize that it's like Galatians. Galatians says, don't be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man reaps, he's also going to sow. And so all of a sudden, you start finding that there's consequences to living in this place that are really starting to, and you just start realizing that, man, I went out here and I didn't think it'd be a big deal. I kind of have home here, and I kind of have my church community here, and I have some people here that care. So I'm just going to go a little bit over, but you start going down this road, and all of a sudden you start comparing yourself not to, like this guy, he's not comparing himself. The father hasn't even been a part of the conversation for a long time. He's now comparing himself. He's like, well, I can eat some slop because, that's kind of what people around here do. It's not that big of a deal. Times have been kind of hard. Some of you right now, you're in your school and you're like, man, I would be different, but the road that it's taken me on, let's be honest. Like some of you fellas, some of you girls are like, I don't know anybody in my life that doesn't smoke weed every day. I don't know somebody in my life that doesn't party every weekend. I don't know a single guy that doesn't think it's funny, or a girl that thinks it's funny to live on internet porn and make comments and jokes. Like, I'm telling you, even if I wanted to turn around, man, I don't have anybody like that in my life. I'd have to admit that I've been heading the wrong way. All the friends I have, they live there. Walking around, and in some of you, I've felt this. You live that road long enough, you start to get some scars. And you start to feel ashamed, and you're not sure how to come back. And so before we get to, I don't want to get too heavy, because I want you to know, I want to have a real talk, but I also want you to know that there's something real here for you tonight. Because Jesus knew in that crowd that he was talking to you. Like he knew, like he could zero in. He knew you. He knew your dad's situation. He knew the thing that happened in your past, that it wasn't something that you chose, but it was something that happened to you. And he knows that you're not paying the price for your mistakes. You might be paying the price for somebody else's mistakes. Like he's seeing all this distant country stuff. Jesus is seeing it. He's just saying, listen, I understand. I want to have a real conversation about where you are and where you feel stuck and where you feel trapped and how distant you feel from God. And then, Luke 15, he says, verse 17, he says, talking about the guy eating slop. He said, when he came to his senses. Like he needed a wake-up call. Like somebody had to call a timeout and go, bro, girl, man, what are we doing, man? Like, why are you here in slop? And like he just had to come to his senses. He said, whoa, timeout, man. Like how many of my father's hired servants? Like even the people that work for my dad is so good, my dad is so kind, there's not even one of his servants that doesn't eat. And on top of that, he says, look at me, man, like I'm starving to death, nobody cares about me. And so he just says in his heart, and I want some of you to hear this tonight. He said, listen, came to his senses, he said, verse 18 says, I'm gonna set out Like, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to my dad. He starts rehearsing in his mind. He says, I'm just going to go say to him, Dad, look, man, I know what I did against you was wrong. I sinned against heaven. I sinned against you. I'm not even worthy. Look, I understand I made a mistake, man, and I shouldn't have been here, and I shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have felt that way, and I shouldn't have chased it, and I should have known it was empty, but I didn't know it was empty, and here I am, and I'm a little addicted, and I'm a little beat up, and you might not even recognize me right now because I'm not even the person that I wanted to be, that I want to be. I'm not even worthy. Make me like one of your hired servants. So hear this. So he got up and he went to his father. And all of a sudden, Jesus, this is what he does. You can almost feel him. Like some of you right now, if you're really going to turn, if you're really going to change, you're like, man, you know what I've done, and you know where I've been, and you know the scars that I have, you know how impossible it's going to change, and what am I going to do, and you just don't know, man. You don't know, and you just rehearse it in your mind. Man, I don't need. Verse 20, he got up and went to his father. It says, but while he was still a long way off, it says his father just saw him. And I know this because I'm a dad. Because dads look for the kids, man. Number one thing that God wants to be called in Scripture, guess what it is? Father. And look, I didn't have a great one. But right now, I'm trying my very best because of what God's done in my life to be a great father. And I can tell you this, there's not a place, there's not a space that my children will ever go where my heart will not always be for them. And it says this, it says, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. He was filled with compassion for him. Of course he was. And he ran to his son, man. What do you think he did? You think he said, well, why you been like this? And why would you ever do that? What? No. He just says, look, he just ran to him. And he threw his arms around him and he kissed him. And the son said to him, and he just had this rehearsed line, man. He's like, look, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you, and I'm not worthy to be your son. But the father's like not listening to any of it. But the father just said to his servants, quick, man, everybody, bring the best robe and put him on him, man. No son of mine is going to be naked and ashamed out here. And then he put a ring on him. No son of mine is going to have to wonder what is like going to have to sneak in the back door of the kingdom. And now because you've really been going on where you're kind of a Christian, but you'll never really have an authority, and you'll never really do anything significant, and you'll never really have a great marriage that's going to change the world, and you're never really going to be something. No. That's not how it works in my house. When you come home, daughter, you get a ring. When you come home, son, fellas, you get a ring. You get your shame removed. You get sandals on your feet. And he says, listen, you're not going to walk around here on your bare feet that are scarred up from your past. Put shoes on his feet, bring the fattened calf, kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate for this son of mine, this daughter of mine. And they were dead. Were they really dead? No. But they might as well have been, man. They were lost and now they're found, so they began to celebrate. So here's why I feel like I'm here to talk to you. I think I'm supposed to say to you, some of you in the room, the road you're on right now, you don't want it. Fellas, I love you, but some of you, the road you're on right now, not only does it not fast forwarded allow you to be a great man, it doesn't even allow you to be a good man. And fellas, I want you to be great men. I want you to be great men. I want you to live your life for something. I want you to have sons that when they look you in the eyes, that they say, my dad is one of the best men I've ever met. I want it for you. Girls, the road that you're on, is not taking some of you where you think it's taking you. Ladies, you are not a piece of meat for a boy. Ladies, you are not the sum total of how you look on social media. Ladies, you are not the current value of how someone has treated you for the last 2 years. That's not who you are. Young men, your sons. Young women, your daughters. So what's he saying? I think this is what he's saying to you. Some of you saying, hey, listen, man, you're headed the wrong way. You're on the wrong road. I think for some of you, he would say, and you've been gone too long. Like, you know it, I know it. It's been a while, man. Some of you first time, some of you a long time. He says, look, you're headed the wrong way. You've been gone way too long. And he just says, and by the way, I've been waiting for you, man. You think I don't see? You think I've given up? You think I just wrote you off? I've been waiting. And if you don't, like, listen to me. And it's time to come home, man. It's time to come home. Fellas, it's time for you to stop running down the path you've been running, to come to your senses, and to make your way to a Father that loves you and will give you purpose and will give you life and will never be fake. He hates fake. He's the only person in your life that will make a promise and always deliver. Ladies, it's time to come home. Your heart's been shattered in a million pieces, and you don't have to stay where you are. All you got to do, you don't need to rehearse what you're going to say. You don't need to come back as like a secondary, less than Christian. All you need to do is say, God, I don't know how. I know where I've been. I don't know what you're going to do with all this that I'm coming back with. But I just want to come home, man. I want to come home to a Father that loves me. I want to come back to a life that is real. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Maybe it's not everybody, but I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to leave you a little space, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to just say, God, I want to come home. So let me pray. I'm going to give you a little space. And if this is you, I would even, like this guy got up, he did a motion. If that's you, maybe you like put your arms out like this because you know that you need to receive something from your Father. If that's you and you want to come home, I'm just going to encourage you. Just stick your hands out, and I'm going to pray over you. And then I'm going to invite you to talk to your dad. Because he's waiting. He loves you. And he has plans for you. Dear Heavenly Father, God, I pray over my brothers and sisters right now. Father, for so many of them that have been just so far from home. Father, I don't know what got them there. I don't know what they were chasing. I don't know what caught their eye. I don't know what made them dissatisfied. I know for me, it wasn't my decision. It was like generations before me. I'd never even met someone who knew you. But then I somehow, on a night like this, Father, you just opened my eyes and you allowed me to come to my senses and to find out that there's a Father that loves me, a Father that wants to forgive me, a Father that wants me to come home because he is mine and I'm his. So, Father, I just want to create a little space for you to talk to your kids as they just say some words that they've needed to say to you for a long time. God, I just pray that you give them the courage, even in their hearts, just to say to you and only you right now, God, I need to come home. Maybe they need to confess some stuff, and maybe they need to say whatever is on their heart to say. And what I know about you is you want to listen because you love them, but you're not going to sit there and judge them based on what they say. You're going to listen to what they say, and then you're going to invite them back into the family, back into relationship, back into sonship, back into being the precious, beautiful daughter, back into the one who has a purpose, who has a plan, who has a future, because that's just who you are. But Father, would you allow your kids to come home to you? So right now, I'm just going to invite you wherever you are, just talk to him. Come home.